Hey, how you doing? Good evening. It's Bob Gums with the Concerned Forum. I hope you don't mind. I tried to tone it down a little bit. I have Billy Joel playing in the back. Uh, I love his music because he helps in these times of madness, uh, he really helps to calm me down, especially when he sings about New York. Uh, I tell you, I just can't get enough of it. Listen, I made a bunch of notes during the course of the day. Uh, so if I seem like I'm trying to hit different subjects, uh, please forgive me. But let's talk, okay? Uh, I put the beginning in the end. I know that sounds bright, right? Real intelligent, Robert. But I had some thoughts, and I wanted to kind of start off talking about those thoughts, if you don't mind. Let's see now, where did I put that? Hmm, yeah. What the hell would Shakespeare do? Okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about what's going on right now, um, which is kind of redundant on my part because when I do this show, basically, that's what it's supposed to be all about. Um, the thing that I think that folks need to really start realizing is that we are kind of like at a crossroads. All right. Some people might say a crossroads. Some people might say a reckoning. But and I'm a registered Democrat. I'm quite sure I've mentioned that a zillion times. And I'm also a member of DSA. And, right now, I see the Democratic Party, especially those folks at the DNC, and some, a lot of elected Democrats, say, "Oh, wow, what's wrong with us?" Listen, man. I tell you quite frankly, I don't, um, I don't pay too much attention to that, and I tell you why. The Democrats basically, and I'm saying this, and don't laugh because it's true. Generally speaking, the problem with the Democrats, they're on the side of the angels. The problem is that they don't do what they're supposed to do, or what they are intention, to do. And the difference between them and the Republicans is the Republicans are just flat out demons. They don't give a shit about you. Okay? They proved that with this what are you gonna big beautiful bill. See? And we as a country, man, we have number one, we're in a very bleak situation right now. I would say this is the bleakest of my lifetime, quite frankly. I mean, the civil rights, Vietnam, the women's movement. No, no, no. This is the bleakest because it's the first time in my lifetime that you had an American president that has tried to assume the powers of a monarch, an absolute monarch at that. Not like in Britain. They have a monarchy in Britain, but it's a constitutional monarchy. And what we have here, we have a guy that's trying to assume all the powers of the monarch, but none of the constitutional guide rails. He wants to get rid of all of those. And that's what makes this time so dangerous. I tell people, in my opinion, this is the most dangerous predicament America has been in. I would say it's a toss up between 1929, 1930, and 1860. Seriously. So you could say 1860, the Great Depression started, what, 1929? And this nightmare that we're in started November of last year, 2024. And, that's my opinion, but that's how I see it. We have a rapidly decaying, entitled, cruel, criminal, soulless, wannabe dictator sitting in the White House right now. Now, the question that we need to ask ourselves, before we start stabbing Democrats, and I'm not carrying water for them. Okay, believe me, I'm not. I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm part of the base, and I'm pissed. Okay, but before we start stabbing Democrats, let's make sure that the wounds that we give them are wounds that they deserve. I think that one of the problems that Democrats have is that sometimes we don't have the guts to face up to the American public. And we need to tell the American public, listen, your founders told you 240, 250 odd years ago that if you wanted to have a democracy where the people decide the fate of the nation, you have to have, you have educated people. See? And, all these years going, taking money out of healthcare, taking money out of education, uh, you kind of bought this on yourselves, to be honest about it. Now, you got a place like Nebraska, for example. Now, you got all those farmers there, Nebraska, Iowa, places like that. Uh, yeah, who they vote for? Well, they voted for Trump. Now, these are people that have these farms, like some of the farms have been in the family since, after 150 years, 170 years, right? And now those farms are going bye-bye, right? They're going bye-bye. Why? Because the people who ran those farms are people uh, who some people like to label illegals. I just call them immigrants, but they don't have the requisite paperwork. So therefore, the Republicans and I would say bigoted people try to criminalize them. Okay, fine. Well, you do that. Oh, I love my ginger ale, but who's going to run the farm? Who's going to run the farm if you, get everybody deported or people just, well, I'm not going to work over there because they'll catch me. So I'm going to head out elsewhere. Maybe I'll head up to Canada. Maybe I'll go back home, south of the border. Okay, fine. So what happens to the crops? What happens to all the food that we need to have in our, supermarkets? It ain't happening, right? What happens to all that tax revenue? It ain't there. That's the problem with Nebraska, right? They, I think it's what, like about 2 months, something before they go bankrupt. Well, now, excuse me for being a lunkhead, but if I got a bunch of people working for me, making money for me, okay, and I got this bird comes along and says, well, those people are evil. They bring drugs, they're murderers, they're rapists, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm stupid enough to believe this clown, right? And I vote for him. Why am I surprised that my farm is going bankrupt? I mean, one thing I'll say about Trump, he's honest, all right? He tells you when he's going to screw you. And, because my God, you're inundated when you get on the internet with all these people crying the blues about what they have lost since Trump came back in office. And I'm like, well, hey, man, I mean, he told you what he was going to do. Did you not understand? Is that a problem that we have in America? The fact that a lot of people, and I know we have a serious problem, and I know a mainstream media doesn't like to talk about it. But you have a lot of people in this country who are functionally illiterate. I know I'm going to catch hell for that. You snotty ass New York liberal, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Let's let the facts speak for themselves. Ever, when these Comedy Central does it a lot. When they go to these Trump rallies and they interview the people waiting to go in, ever listen to them? You ever notice with a MAGA person, you never get a straight answer. Oh, that Obama, he's no good. He should be in jail. Okay, why? Oh, well, Kamala Harris, she didn't, she wasn't experienced, she wasn't qualified. She also ought to be in jail. Okay, why? Or, that damn Joe Biden, blah, he didn't do anything, and his son's a criminal. Well, wait a minute. I wasn't aware that his son was Hunter. I wasn't aware that Hunter ever held a public office. Okay? I mean, look, we all got families. We all got in-laws. We got family members who are, screwed up. Uh, should we take the weight for them? I don't think so. So after giving, this intellectual synopsis about why Obama and Biden and Kamala Harris should be in jail, you ask the basic question, okay, why? And I swear to God, you'll never get a straight answer, right? You'll never get a definitive answer about what makes these people so corrupt that they deserve to be locked up. You never hear that from them. See, and that tells me that MAGA is basically composed of a lot of people who are just bitter with their spot in life, which I can dig that, right? But the problem with MAGA is that they don't differentiate between how they screwed themselves and how they were screwed by the system. And let me tell you, if you vote Republican, if you've been voting regular Republican, if you've been voting Republican for the last 15 years, you really don't have any room to talk. That's just like rural America. Now, the reason I say this is because in my 26 years with the military, uh, four different branches, I can tell you that a lot of people from rural America just don't get it. Okay? I don't know, a lot of these people, especially when you talk about the so-called heartland, they want 1890 or 1925, and they refuse to accept the fact that this is the 21st century. Several years earlier, they refused to accept the fact that this was the 20th century. And now, I guess you could say this is for the Democratic Party. When people came along and said, well, listen, we want to fix your bridges, we want to fix your infrastructure, so we can attract investment and lobbyists. We want to fix your public schools so that your kids can get educated and work. And a lot of these high tech jobs that are coming down the pipe. And over here, you have the Republican talking about, oh, well, we have to, these LGBT people are terrible. And what's the last one for the last several years? Oh, these trans people. It amazes me. And I hold Bill Maher responsible for a lot of this crap because, he didn't talk about the stuff that the Republican Party was doing to screw the average American. Okay, but he sure would try to get applause attacking Democrats for protecting the rights of trans people. Now, number one, trans people. How many trans people are there out there? I think it's like about 1% of the population. And this thing about, oh, well, Democrats are trying to groom our children to be homosexual or to be trans, and what do you have? It seems like every time you turn around, you have a Republican getting busted for some type of, child sex thing. I mean, look at the White House. I guess what I'm trying to say is that America, especially that so-called heartland, you dug your own grave. Okay. Now, the question that we have to ask is why? And I'm going to say it. I know it's not going to make me popular, but I believe it to be the truth. Most of this has to do with Bob. And it's American as apple pie, racism. Okay. And oh, I could hear the people clicking, clicking their, clicking their computers now. Change the channel, change the channel. Hey man, I'm sorry. I'm telling you like it is. You're talking about the presidency of the United States, and you have this guy. He's a convicted criminal now, right? He's already been convicted by juries of his peers in our American court system. Okay, he has proven, and you folks out there who are veterans or in the National Guard, or have kinfolk in the National Guard, you need to pay attention to this. This guy has absolutely pure contempt for military people. Okay. Remember, he was a 5-time draft dodger. So that tells you how much he cares about the military. He was a rich kid. He could have easily went into the National Guard, just like Bush Jr. did. But he didn't have enough respect for this country and for the military to even do that, right? And you National Guard people out there, look, I'm past 65, so don't take offense. Okay, actually, George Bush Sr. gave you your respect. Okay, I know all about. I was in for the first part of the Gulf War, right? I know all about National Guard people calling up, going to Saudi, going to Iraq. Okay, I know all about that. And that's cool. You did your share, right? But unfortunately, back during now, it wasn't like that. Okay? Wealthy people or people who had connections went into the National Guard to avoid going into the regular military. Okay? That was part of when we did our PT cadence. Yeah. PT, so good, so good. NG for National Guard. No good, no good. Well, that's the way it was in 1972. Okay. The major thing that they did with the National Guard, you had them shoot black people in the urban riots in the late 60s and early 70s and kill college students like Kent State. Okay, that's the way it was. As I said, thank George Bush Senior because he bought you guys your self respect, right, from the World War II days, quite frankly. So that's something that you need to be aware of. Check that off as a historical note, because that's real. That's how it was. And if you have any doubts about that, all you have to do is go into the internet, read about Kent State, read about the riots in Newark, New Jersey, and I think what LA, Chicago, right? Because we got to remember, first time I went in the military was early, very early, February '72. Okay, I was 17 at the time, and well, right, Martin Luther King had been assassinated about 4 years earlier, along with Bobby Kennedy, right? And it was rough. It was rough. America went through a rough time. I fear that we're getting ready to go through another rough time again. But trying to stay on the main point, you have to ask yourself why somebody that shows just a serious lack of character was even able to attract funds and supporters, right? I mean, this is a guy he's known for not paying his workers. Working Americans are going to vote for a guy that's known for not paying his employees, right? That's the first thing. And like I say, he was already a convicted criminal, plus what, 26 different allegations of sexual abuse? And plus the fact that this guy he liked to store top secret documents in the bathroom of his Mar-a-Lago, whatever his home or hotel, whatever the hell you want to call it, right? All that kind of shit. But you couldn't deal with having a black Asian female president. That really freaked you out. And what was it? Oh, well, she didn't have the experience, and blah, 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 blah. And she hasn't made her policies clear. When in the hell did Donald Trump ever make anything clear? Come on, man. I've been watching this guy since I was 13, right? He has never made anything clear, right? The lady had been a local prosecutor, and then she became the state's attorney general, state of California, right? Then she became a United States senator, and then she became a vice president of the United States. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about when you say that she wasn't qualified. I just don't get it. Certainly, she ranked above Donald in terms of character. You remember, this is a guy, what was it, 30,000 times? He told like 30,000 lies in his first term? And that's what you call character? I mean, this is the guy that says that he felt he had the right to grab women he don't even know by their personal parts, and then pays a chick while his wife is pregnant, pays a woman to, do the wild thing. I, then he breaks the law by trying to cover it up. I mean, this is a guy who was bankrupt 6 times. He bankrupted the whole city, Atlantic City, over in Jersey, right? But yet, this is who you ran to, you farmers out there. Oh, and by the way, middle America, like we say back in New York, you got played, right? You got played. Because the people who are getting smashed up the worst by the big, beautiful bill and by the trade wars, the unnecessary trade wars, and all this other garbage are you people. And when I say you people, I am talking specifically about the white working class. Honestly, there's a saying, I don't know where I picked it up at, but bigotry will make you stupid. And that's what happened to America in November of 24. As a country, we got stupid. And that's why we're suffering now. And I can tell you right now, as long as you have Democrats, excuse me, as long as you have Republicans in the majority in the Senate and in the House, and you have a Republican, either Trump or his, I don't know what the hell you want to call it, Vance, but as long as you have these clowns uh, in the executive and the late legislative, in terms of being in a majority, you've been going through hard times. Be prepared to go through some more, because I honestly believe that the game is to destroy the middle class. Period. They want to turn most of Americans into serfs, so that you have an elite on the top and the masses of us on the bottom. Honestly, and use a little common sense. You are throwing out, and let's face it, who basically we're talking about, Latinos, right? You're throwing them out hand over fist, even when it's done illegally. Like that boy in Maryland, they're trying to send to Uganda. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell he's guilty of. Yes, I don't believe that somebody trying to come into America and work. No, I don't see that as a big crime. I'm sorry, because if that's the case, then everybody's a criminal. Even me, even my ancestors, we were unintentional criminals because we were born here. Okay, that's why it's so important that Americans study real history, so that they don't, number one, repeat stupid mistakes, right? And number two, what's the old expression? The man don't know where he's going if he don't know where he's been. See, and that's the problem that we have now. And you folks forgot all about that, and you push enter or pull the lever or whatever you did, and you voted for the convicted guy. Now that's the truth. The man is, he's a convicted criminal, which I find it's so amusing to hear this guy talk about. Send the National Guard. You listen up, you National Guard people out there. Listen up. I gotta send the National Guard because the crime is so bad in DC and Baltimore and Philly. Hey man, wait a minute. Aren't you 34 convictions? Number one. Number two, isn't it looking more and more every day that you were involved with a pedophile ring? You might be going into the rest of this shit about your background. Just those two things I just put out there. And you have the nerve and the audacity to talk about sending troops to American cities? Well, listen, what did I say? Bigotry makes you stupid, right? We made a very stupid move as a nation. Okay, we put this clown in the White House. All right, as and I understand, especially when talking to Latino people, because unfortunately, now you have some idiotic black folks that bought into that bullshit. You still have a couple, like what's his name, Brian. Daniels, I think, in Florida, and Tim Scott, and that black lady in Virginia, the lieutenant governor running for governor, right? You still have some black fools that buy into that. And see, something that white people need to understand, white Americans pick up on this, right? You have a problem sometimes with people. Psychological damage, maybe something happened as they were growing up. But when you see black people who are so willing to join with people who hate them, right? I would tell my white working class brothers and sisters, you see black folks like that? Run. Okay? I ain't, I'm not talking about you seeing the couple of black kids hanging out in front of the bar or whatever, right? They really ain't your enemy. Okay? But black folks, black Republicans, basically, yeah. If you are a working class person, that is your enemy. They are your enemy. And I'll tell you why. Because as you see right now, these folks align themselves with the capitalist elite. All right. These are the people that don't want to see you get the minimum wage raised up. Okay. They don't fight for you to have any kind of. The majority of the American people want national health care. They want Medicare for all. Every poll shows that. But you're not going to find black Republicans out there fighting for that sort of thing because they want to stick with the elite. Oh, and by the way, you got some black Democrats, by the way. Now, they'll give lip service to progressive platforms and what have you, but check out who their donors are. But see, that's something that the Democratic Party, those folks down at the DNC, that's what they need to clean up. Seriously. I fell out with my representative in the Bronx because of the fact that I've seen that he's gotten so much money from APAC. And I know Americans should not be paying to help somebody else commit genocide. And no, it don't make me anti-Semitic. And if you know me personally and the battles I've fought over the last 25 years, you wouldn't dare call me an anti-Semite. Okay. But I'm starting to run short on time, so I'm not going to go in to the issues that I have to deal with when I was stationed. My last duty station before I went to the Gulf War was in Jacksonville, Florida, in a F-18 fighter squadron, in a place called Jacksonville. A lot of folks have the impression that Florida has become some kind of hangout for Nazis and Klans people and, what do you call it, people? Misogynistic groups and stuff like that, MAGA, right? Well, they're right. It was like that in the late 80s. Yeah, you could see the trend. Okay. So let's just say it wasn't a very hospitable place for a black kid from New York who was Roman Catholic and spent most of his life around Jewish people. Jacksonville, at that particular base, Cecil Field, for the nosy ones out there, no, it was not conducive. All right, but I had other things on my mind. So when my enlistment was up, I went straight into the reserves. Period. Other things because such as my late wife having a very difficult pregnancy with our first son. So I'll let that stop there. But I will also speak to you about Zoran Mondani. Oh, these bastards really piss me off. Now, you got a situation, and this is what really angers me. He's being attacked for being an anti-Semite. Somebody from some damn group, um, a, a Zionist group, has threatened him, and I'm sure you see hate mail and all this kind of crap. And I'm trying to understand, why are you attacking a loyal American? I mean, listen, Cipriano is an American name, right? I went to school with a lot of Ciprianos, a lot of people with vowels in their name, okay? So having vowels in your name, it doesn't make you a non-American, okay? But they sure as hell are laying it thick on Mondami, and it's not right, especially when when it's being done by elected Democrats. That's a damn shame. The man's a loyal American, and he does outreach to the Jewish community in New York, right? But he does not condone genocide. And quite frankly, I think two-thirds of the known world feels the same way. And the idea that you're going to kill a whole bunch of people and then take their land with our money, see? And that's a problem. And then he has this guy Cuomo, former governor, who conspires with Trump. They're trying to figure out ways to trip up Mandami against the will of the majority of New York voters. And that's something that's really scary. Adams, I mean, he's not really worth mentioning, quite frankly. He's got one of the most scandal-plagued administrations in New York City history. And as far as Curtis Lewa, he's someone from another time, quite frankly. The situation is much more complex today than it was back in the 70s, early 80s. And I'm curious too. I think Cuomo should show the list of his clients that he had after he left the governor's mansion and was practicing law. Because I understand a lot of these people were connected either to Trump or to Epstein. And we know about the Epstein thing. See, so I think that this business about attacking Mondami because you claim he has a rent control apartment. Oh, by the way, Governor Cuomo, didn't you pass a law or get a law passed allowing people with what I would call a decent income to be able to maintain their rent control apartments? Didn't you do that? Or am I mistaken? If I'm mistaken, if I find out that I'm mistaken, I will take it back. But last I heard, that was something that you was down with. So, how about that? I think also, beside the fact that Madami feels that his job as mayor would be to be the mayor of New York City instead of globetrotting to Tel Aviv, he also believes in a basic redistribution of the wealth. And I know that scares a lot of people that read the Wall Street Journal. But hey, man, I'm a subway kid, right? Right out the projects. Redistribution of wealth don't scare me. Okay? It's not a signal for, oh, okay, low income people just chill out, lay back and just smoke herb, right? No, that's not what it's about. Okay. It's about fairness, it's about opportunity. Okay. It's about a group of people that want to suck up all the oxygen in the room. And that's the danger when you have a maldistribution of wealth in the society. Why is he doing so well, Madami? Well, just like I said, because he believes in an intelligent redistribution of the wealth. He also speaks to the issues that really bug New Yorkers, like the cost of living. See? And we have a situation that our wages have been stagnant since the late 70s. I look at people sometimes. Oh God, what's this? I get the thing on my computer, it pops up with, news bites. Highly problematic. Ex-cabinet member warns Trump. Imprudent, oh, here we go. Imprudent move. As Donald's trying to fire one of the governors of the Federal Reserve, Lisa Cook, who happens to be a black female. What a coincidence. And the main reason is because now he's been pushing the head of the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. Okay. And he would love to fire that guy, but him being the head of the Federal Reserve, that would probably be too much of a shock for Wall Street. So he wants to do the next best thing. Well, I'll get the black one, right? That's how he thinks, that's how he talks. Okay. And he said, I'll get the black one. Um, it will please my racist. Those are my supporters who are truly bigoted. It will make them happy, and it will scare the guy who I really would like to fire, the head of the Federal Reserve, and I'll make my point like that. See, the problem with Trump though, is that him being ignorant, and yeah, rich people can be surprisingly ignorant. I don't know why their parents waste all that money, get them degrees out of these fancy Ivy League schools, and they don't seem to learn a damn thing. I guess because they figure they don't have to. But see, Trump should have done some reading because he would have learned that the Federal Reserve is an independent, a quasi-independent body. You just can't fire the governors of the Federal Reserve, right? Number one, it looks shitty. Okay. Number two, you you really drove a scare in the financial markets, not just here in America, but around the world. And number three, you are going to be made to look stupid in the courts, right? We still have some courts, believe it or not, in this country that still manage to work. And that was a very stupid move on Trump's part. But as anybody, and I'm not speaking out of school, I'm not speaking out of turn. You've had a whole bunch of psychiatrists and doctors who have said, publicly have said, Donald he's not a well man, right? I mean, number one, he has a worse diet than I do. And that's saying a lot. But he weighs a hell of a lot more than I do. I think he's about 75, about almost 90 pounds more heavier than I am. I'm 6'2". He's 6'3". He's way over 300. What is he, way over 300 pounds or something? On a diet of what? Big Macs and Diet Cokes? I mean, you see his hands. My God. I used to have to get a lot of blood tests when I was in the Navy. And man, he's got me beat. He looks like hell, bottom line. A lot of it's genetics, quite frankly. Some people, oh, I can't believe you're over 65. Right? I love to hear that. I mean, we all have an ego, right? But it's genetics. And to be honest about it, look, it ain't me. It's God rest his soul, is my dad, right? Supposedly my dad was 94 when he kicked off, right? And I came to find out from, when I was in the Navy, I had the opportunity to go down to the American Virgin Islands. And I met the lady that raised him, or, helped, partially raised him. And she passed away in the 80s. And she supposedly, what was she, 118 years old, say. And, I think my pop was a little, maybe closer to 100, you know. He always considered himself a ladies man, just out of pure ego. So he probably would lie about his age. But he was good, you know. He was good looking for like 93, 94. So I'm blessed in that regard. No, don't worry, I'm not getting full of myself or nothing. Okay. I ain't no what was a man in my era, uh, uh Billy D. Williams, or what's the other brother? Did Glory. Um, I'm not, I'm not trying to say that I'm him. Denzel. I'm not Denzel Washington. I'm not Billy D. Williams. All right. Hey, we all can't have everything, right? But I thank my mom and my dad for my genes. A lot of it's genetics, and a lot of it, or a good part of it, it's not just genetics. I think a lot of it is the soul. Now, don't worry, I'm not trying to get all metaphysical. Okay, I don't have too much of appreciation. I'm a former Roman Catholic, former altar boy, uh, former aspiring priest, believe it or not. But I don't have that much of a thing about religion. But I do believe that we have immortal souls. I do believe that. And I still consider myself to be a Christian. Right? Um, and I believe that the good or the evil or the middle of the road, the balance, it shows up, you know, physically in who we are. And when I see Donald Trump, I see a man that is being eaten up from the inside out with the evil. He wasn't a bad looking kid when he was young, but I think over time and trying to live up to his father, Fred, living up to those weird expectations, I think over a period of time it just grew in him. I understand his ankles are as big as, motorcycle tires and what have you. And no one, it's not good to wish sickness or illness upon anyone. I thank God that all the things that I've seen and have been through has left me with that much humanity. But that does not stop me from saying, hey, it's evil over there. And that's what I see with Trump. I see him. I mean, he was asking about saying something about the fact that he was worried about not going to heaven. Well, if you spend your life hurting your fellow human beings, we don't know what's on the other side. But I do believe that we somehow we're held accountable for what we have done to people in life. And I do believe that now he has a lot to worry about, just like with this Epstein thing, right? Almost 1,000 young girls, excuse me, underage girls, were sexually abused. Only one person is in jail for that, right? and she was able to talk her way out of prison in Florida to a tennis playing, um, racquetball playing exercise camp, essentially, in Texas. Okay. Uh, the woman who she was incarcerated with for, a totally different crime, uh, she complained about that because she said Camp Fed is not supposed to be for child abusers. And she wound up being punished for that. Okay. And then Trump sends his lawyer, his real lawyer, who he made an assistant attorney general, to interview this woman. Now, dig this. I'm facing 20 years, right? And the guy that can set me free is sitting in the White House. And he has sent his former lawyer, who is now an attorney general, to speak to me. Now, what am I going to do? Right? Remember now, this woman, what's her name? Elaine? She's all about self. Otherwise, she would never done the things that she did. So this guy comes and he says, basically, listen, if you ever saw anything involving President Trump, we can look out for you. What would you do if you were facing 20 years, right? No, I never. Who, Trump? Who? I never heard of him. No, I never saw him do anything. I mean, come on, man. See, this is something else that I can't stand about today's Republican Party. They think people are stupid. They really do. Just like these damn farmers out there. God bless them. You, Trump and the Republican Party, you told these people, yeah, the problem with America is trans people and immigrants and blacks and women getting DEI. And y'all fell for it. They fell for that bullshit. And now they've lost their farms. Listen, uh, I think what the Democratic Party needs to do, stop beating yourself up. You know what you need to do. You need to dump the donors, right? Dump the so-called experts, right? Stand up to APAC and tell them, hey, man, listen, as an American legislator, I can't go along with this constant funding of what you're doing to Palestinians in Gaza. Oh, and by the way, that's not just Muslim Palestinians, by the way, that they're being butchered. That's also Christian Palestinian. So all you evangelicals out there that we have to do this for Israel, need to think about that. And it ain't got a goddamn thing to do with anti-Semitism, because I dare say most of the Jewish people outside of Israel, I'm talking about around the world, they feel the same way. Genocide is wrong. These are people that I marched with. They're talking about Jewish people, not people in the Israeli government. I'm talking about Jewish people who we marched side by side with. Rabbis, Catholic priests, Martin Luther King, my parents. What happened? Well, most American Jews feel the same way that I do. Genocide is wrong. It's wrong to do the Israeli children. It's wrong to do the Palestinian children. And America, the land of the free, the democracy, we shouldn't be a part of that. That's wrong. Listen, as usual, I sat here and started running my mouth, basically just trying to get some things off my chest and trying to get some kind of understanding. Um, I, I probably did a piss poor job, but I'm being honest. You know, we in America, we are at a reckoning. Okay, I'm sorry that a lot of white working class, especially white working class guys with no college, I'm sorry that you felt that you had to go with Donald Trump. I'm sorry, single parent white women, okay, especially with handicapped kids. I'm sorry you felt that you had to go with Donald Trump. And my Latino brothers and sisters, which is also part of my culture also, because my grandfather was Dominican, okay, and my grandmother was Haitian, was a Haitian lady, right? So I feel where you're coming from, and I'm sorry that so many of y'all fell for this bullshit out of Donald Trump, right? Um, Now I'm going to be very cruel. You black folks out there, you black Americans that voted for Trump, I don't feel, because you should know better, right? A history of struggle should bring about a certain amount of realism and, reality. Um, but what are we going to do? Hmm? And I say this, you know, to my Democratic elected officials. And also, I'm also an NAACP member. You all need to get up off your ass and start fighting because just as we saw in Nazi Germany, fascism, if you don't stand up to it, it will roll you over, no matter how much if you think you got a free pass. All right? No, 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 no. Democrats, get your house in order. Pay attention to your damn base because I'll be quite frank about the future of this country for the next 50 years depends upon progressives. It depends upon Democrats, right? It depends upon Republicans who get their sanity back. It depends upon all of us. We have the choice, and let's see what we're going to do with it. I'm not one of those black people that want to sit around and laugh at Latinos or laugh at white farmers and white, laborers. Say, you voted for him and he screwed you. Look, we're human, right? We all have the urge to, I told you so, but that's done. Okay? It's time to put that shit down. And we need to come together. Because I tell you quite frankly, I don't give a damn how much you dislike the other one or vice versa. The only way that America is going to have this democracy, we have to reach an agreement that on the basics, we have to come together. And governors, I'm not just going to say blue state governors, because I think you still have some sane red state governors out there. Be careful. Be careful. Because when you're talking about Donald Trump, you're talking about a sick man. And if something happens to him, there's going to be a power struggle. Be careful. Protect your people. Like that governor in Illinois, I like what he said about protecting his people because it may very well come to that. And one more thing, National Guard. I was in the DC National Guard for a time. I was a military police officer in the DC National Guard, as well as the Army Reserve and the Navy Reserve and the regular Navy and the regular Army. So I will tell you, we took an oath, remember, to defend the Constitution. Make sure you remember that because this person that you have in the White House, he might ask you to do things that you don't really legally have a right to do. And to my friends in ICE, let me remind you of something. Donald Trump may wrangle away, okay, to what is that? Not have to be punished for anything he does in office. But you don't have that, okay? You go out there hurting people, you might think you're getting away with something for now, but it's going to come back to haunt you. And ICE, I warn you, don't be like those poor bastards at Nuremberg. Well, I was only following orders. It didn't work for them when they met the hangman's noose. And I guarantee you, just like that governor from Illinois said, it will catch up with you. He's not always going to be there. Okay? So I suggest that you start thinking and maybe start walking a little lighter when you go into these communities. Take off the mask, show your ID, right? Show a warrant. Don't let that man in the White House push you all into doing something where you wind up getting hurt or hurting somebody else. Don't do it, please. I'm not telling you, I'm asking you. You're Americans. Same thing I say to my friends in the National Guard and the regular military if it comes to that. You are Americans. You didn't sign up to hurt, beat, and possibly kill your fellow citizens. So if I say anything here this evening that will stick with you, I hope that does. Listen, we got a rough way to go, but if we hang together, we can make it. Listen, this is Bob Gomes of the Concerned Forum. Thank you for taking the time to listen. And if you be kind enough to check the box if you like it or leave a comment, whatever. But take care of yourself. Peace and have a good evening.